British Columbia, where the federal government mandates the tax and the NDP government happily administers the tax, the government collects $9 billion over the next 3 years and gives back only $3.5 billion, which means the taxpayer is out $5.5 billion. That's just in BC alone, my friends. I think you'll all agree that Justin Trudeau and the NDP's carbon tax is starting to give British Columbians the EBGBs.
I'm just trying to do the math. That Justin Trudeau's and the NDP's carbon tax is...
Yeah, it's kind of Trumpian to have the little cutesy names for things, isn't it? Well, BC gas prices are a subject of conversation right now because they're super high.
Yeah.
They're expected to go, I think they're going around 218 and then maybe as high as 230 by the end of spring. So yeah, clearly a lot of people are talking about it, and we are just heading into a provincial election. It's like they haven't dropped the rate yet, but it feels like we're already in it.
Feels like it. That's why we have to talk to our political analyst at CHEK News, Rob Shaw. You're our touchstone. You're having a very busy day. We have like 19 topics we want to cover with you. Let's start with the axe, the tax, EBGBs, carbon. Can you add some clarity? You wrote your column in the Orca.ca on this. Lay it out for our viewer. What are we actually looking at here?
Well, I mean, you have a federal leader like Pierre Poilievre, who's massively popular, whipping up thousands of people in British Columbia and kind of making a cartoon villain out of David Eby. He is the last premier in Canada at this point defending the increase to the carbon tax or the carbon tax in general. Even Manitoba's NDP premier, Wab Kinew, has decided that he's going to fight climate change as a government without a carbon tax during an affordability crisis. So David Eby is stuck trying to argue in favor of this thing at a time when it is deeply unpopular, when gas prices are going up, when you've got a cost of living crisis. It only adds, the carbon tax only, around 17 cents a liter to the price of gas. It is not responsible for the massive increase in gas we are seeing. That's the oil industry. But the public sees it. They see the limited success we're having in fighting pollution and the cost to them when they fill the pump, and they it feels like the support is really dwindling for that tax across the country.
Do you see a pivot coming, especially with the BC Conservatives climbing up the polls?
I think the NDP would like to pivot more on the rebate side. They would like to maybe, like the rebate for BC residents right now is really geared to low-income British Columbians with income amounts that don't hit the middle class. I think they would like to try to change that first, give people back money, see if that makes the carbon tax more palatable, because I don't get the impression this government really wants to take that off the table.
There was news today, Rob, and we've got so many subjects with you. I'm going to pivot to policing, because there was a press release that came out that had a bunch of stuff in it, and yet really at the root of it, it seems like changing the way police boards are run. What's changing in this legislation from Far North and Company?
Well, for a long time, it has been viewed by mayors and critics of police boards that the mayor should not be the chair of the police board by law, which is the way it's written right now. It's kind of a conflict of interest. The mayor and municipal departments helps hire the chief. The mayor is in a council position trying to also prepare a police board budget and then maybe vote on approving it or passing it. So this legislative change allows councils to select their own representative for their own police board. It could be the mayor, could be someone else, and then the board will decide who is the chair based on a vote. So it does not mean that the mayor is automatically chair. This obviously has big significance in Surrey, where the government's locked in a fight with Mayor Brenda Locke over the police service, and they would prefer she's not the chair of the police board, and also in other communities like in Victoria as well, where it's been an issue. So it's a big governance change, and the hope is that it makes police boards a little bit less conflict of interest-y and a little bit more functional, because they can be deeply dysfunctional.
In this province, let's switch to housing now. We have a lot of people, kind of a conflict sometimes between renters and landlords, and the Eby government is announcing some news that at least half that group is going to be happy about.
Well, you remember there's a story a few months ago about a couple that was having a baby, and their landlord decided that the baby constituted a new tenant and so raised the rents 25%, $600 a month. That is now outlawed under this new legislation, and not just for babies, for minors under 19, so foster kids, adopted kids, parental changes, a child moves in with another parent. Rents can't go up based on another tenancy. There's also some changes about how landlords can evict people. So one of the most common ways is saying that they are going to use their suite for themselves or for their family. That's called a personal use eviction. That won't be allowed in purpose-built rental buildings. And the goal there is to keep seniors who often have been in their rents for a long time. They have artificially low rents from getting targeted by investors and thrown out of their units so that they can raise the rents high. And so those changes, I think, will affect a lot of people. And they're really geared to some horrible stories that the government has seen. And also the seniors representative who says there's a lot of seniors becoming homeless when they lose their low rent due to a landlord. They can't find anywhere else to go.
I want to touch on the healthcare piece just a little bit because there's a big story going around right now, a leaked memo of nurses who are feeling vulnerable in their workspace. We've got emergency rooms in the interior and up northern British Columbia that are closed on a regular basis due to staffing levels. What is happening on the healthcare file right now at the Ledge?
Well, we're just dealing with a leaked memo from Northern Health right now on decriminalization, which says to a lot of workers in hospitals up there, you cannot stop someone from using drugs in a hospital room, including smoking various drugs, and you can't take their drugs. You can't take their weapons either if the blade is under 4 inches long, and you can't stop people who are coming into hospital to deal drugs. And so that has caused this backlash the government's been having to deal with. They insist that their larger policies forbid drug use, forbid weapons in hospitals, but the nurses themselves are coming out and saying, you know what, we see this every day. We have nurses walk through plumes of toxic fentanyl smoke and they become dizzy, they become ill. One woman had returned from maternity leave, was told not to breastfeed her baby because of her exposure to fentanyl from usage in hospital rooms at work. And it's kind of another knock against decriminalization, which is getting a bad rap. It has not reduced overdose deaths. It has sparked more public use in public places. Mayors, people are upset, and now nurses are upset that it has increased use in hospitals, and that has decreased safety of the people who work there.
Right.
Plus, we saw the person smoking meth or whatever in the Tim Hortons here in Metro Vancouver. So decriminalization, the opposition parties are really bam, 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 and also the carbon tax. David Eby has said at least 3 times, I think, publicly on the record, there's no way that he's going to drop the election earlier. Right now it's supposed to go near the end of October. Do you think that he might change his mind based on the polling we're seeing?
No, I don't think so. I think history is going to ask a question of whether he should have gone last year before these intractable problems that he was so confident he could solve at the beginning of his term have become unsolvable the closer you get to the election. But no, he's been pretty clear there's no early election now. It'll only be a few months early. We could be talking about totally different things in October. We could have a really bad wildfire season and drought season, and the carbon tax goes from being a negative to something people support again. Like, who knows? But at this point, crime, healthcare, affordability, housing are the dominant issues, and this government is struggling with each one of them.
Such a
busy day for you, Rob. Thank you for lending us. That was the fastest 10 minutes in history of the show. Thanks for doing this, as always.
Thanks, Rob.
Anytime. I always love being on the show. Thank you.
We love having you on. Rob Shaw, CHEK's political correspondent. All right, coming up next, photographing the who's who of Vancouver. Longtime Vancouver Sun columnist Malcolm Perry is celebrated in a new documentary, The Society Page. Malcolm and the director, Kevin Eastwood, join us in studio next.
This is a must-watch. You have got to see it. You have to see this, too. Our viewing party photos. Marcella in Victoria. Hello there.
Nancy B. in Langley. Thanks for watching.
And we have Tom. Linda, Tom didn't tell us where he was watching
from,
but I think Tom. This is Tom in Winnipeg. Yes, yes.
And Elizabeth in Vancouver. We love seeing your photos. Tell us where you're watching from.
Viewing party at CHEKmedia.ca is how you get in on it. It's brought to you by the BC RFA, and we have a Romer's gift card up for grabs tonight.